had an injury that was too hard for them to handle on their own? Physical injury. Okay. Did you do something about it? Raise your hand if you did something about it. Okay. Okay. So when we get a really difficult, okay, put your hands down. If we have a really difficult physical injury that we feel we cannot handle on our own, obviously it's really easy for us to go and get help. Everybody does it. Fantastic. Okay. So what about feelings of sadness, loneliness, maybe fear, anxiety, depression, stress? Raise your hands if you felt any of those. Okay. I certainly have. I felt all of those a lot. Okay. So, have you ever felt, you can put your hands down, have you ever felt any of those, and just like that really deep wound, they were too hard for you to handle? And if you have, did you do something about it? Raise your hands if you did something about that. Okay, look around the room and notice the difference. Notice the difference in the numbers of hands that went up when it was a mental pain or injury and when it was a physical. It's okay, you can put your hands down. Notice that, and let's talk about that for a minute. So why is it when we have two really important parts of our health, physical and mental, why is it that one of them is so much easier to talk about and to take action about, and the other one isn't? Does that make sense? I mean, they're the same in terms of their importance. One of them we can see, so it shows if it's a really deep wound. The other one's also a deep wound, we just can't see it. That actually makes it more important because we can't see it, so it's hidden. So sometimes we don't even realize, it's there in ourselves or in somebody else. And so that's the point of talking about mental health. Is that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And we want it to be just as easy to talk about, stress or depression or anxiety as it is to talk about the paper cut or the twisted ankle. Okay? Does that make sense? What do you think? Yeah? So I can tell you that I've had paper cuts and twisted ankles and all sorts of physical injuries, and I've had all sorts of mental pain and things that I've struggled with as well. And I can tell you that finally I've been taking action with both types of pain, not just the physical. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. And so that action could be going to a specialist, it could be just going to a really close person who we trust to talk to. Because what happens when we get a really deep wound? We go to a doctor or we go to a parent or somebody to help us. And then if that wound, if we go to the doctor or something and they fix it and it's better, okay. But what if 2 days later it looks like it's getting infected? Will we just leave it to be infected? To stay another week or two and get worse? We don't leave it, do we? We do something about it. We go back to that doctor, maybe we go to a different doctor because we weren't happy with the first doctor. We keep taking action until we resolve the problem and heal the wound. It's exactly the same when it comes to our mental health. We can take actions and there are solutions. It sometimes feels like there aren't. So when we're really digging into that, when we're really living in that problem, it suddenly feels like it's a huge thing and there's no solution and we don't know what to do. But there is a solution. Okay, it's out there. We just need to acknowledge that we have a problem and do something about it. Okay, now whose responsibility is it to take care of ourselves? Okay, wow, you guys are really disciplined about raising your hand and speaking in turn and things like that. It's really cool. I thought people would be shouting out. It's really great. You want to answer that?
I was going to say it's our own, we have to take care of
your own responsibility. Fantastic. Because would it make sense if I choose everybody here in the front row and I tell you guys, look, from now on you guys are going to be responsible for my mental health, my well-being, my happiness, okay? You're responsible. Is that okay with you? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. How can you be responsible for my well-being, my happiness, my mental health? It has to be me. And when I started, finally, it took me, I'm 50 years old, it took me many years, like until I was 48, I was still going through problems until I finally got help. So you really don't need to wait any extra day to ask for help. And even though life is going to have pain, so we're going to have some physical pain, some mental pain, pain is a part of life, but suffering doesn't have to be. So pain does not need to be suffering. Do you understand the difference? Okay? Because we can handle pain as human beings, we can handle certain amounts of pain. If we leave it to linger, it turns into suffering. It doesn't need to. Another thing I wanted to talk about is feelings. When it comes to feelings, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is decide that there are good and positive feelings and then negative ones that we sort of want to ignore. We don't want to ignore them. What we want to do, and scientifically, scientists, I've studied a lot of science of happiness, and science of happiness researchers say that the happiest people are not the ones who only feel good all the time. So happiness isn't feeling good all the time. It's the ones who are actually feeling the full range of emotions. They feel many different positive and negative emotions, but they're able to accept them and to work through them and then feel better in the end. Okay? Preparing to speak here today, I take these things seriously. So I'm going to come talk to two or young students about mental health. I wanted to prepare. So I was thinking, how can I prepare? So one thing I thought of was talk to my 12-year-old daughter who goes to a British school, similar to this one, and ask her what she knows about mental health. So we talked about that for a while. The other thing I thought of is, hey, wait a minute. I was 11, I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I was that age as well. What would I have liked to hear from somebody, a speaker who comes to the school, given the things I know now? What would I like to hear? So I'm just going to share a few more things that have made a big difference in my life, that have allowed me to turn from somebody who struggled with happiness for a big part of my life to actually becoming a happiness consultant, where I would work with other people to help them with that. So that's a huge change. And so some of the main things that really helped me, one of them is to practice loving and being kind to myself and to other people. So I developed this concept a few years ago called wearing my love glasses. Of course, you don't actually have to wear real love glasses. They can be imaginary, but I'm trying to deliver my message here. So I wear these love glasses. I decided one day 3 years ago that I want to have a filter through which I see people and events and life, and I want that filter to be love. So I put on my love glasses and when I go out, I look for what's good and I look for what I like in people and events. Even when they don't go the way I want, I look for what I can learn from that. And it's really important. I know a lot of people say, what's this person doing? Why is she wearing these plastic glasses? But it actually works to put on your imaginary love glasses. And one thing that's really important is to look in the mirror when you have them on and to really learn to see in yourself what's good. Because one thing that I wish I knew when I was your age is that I'm pretty special, pretty awesome, exactly the way I am. That I don't have to prove anything, that I am actually born, so every single person in this room is already born with wonderful qualities, strengths, a lot of beauty. And the whole point is that they're born very unique. So there isn't anybody exactly like you on this planet. Because there's only one person who's had exactly the same set of experiences that you have had, who's been exposed to exactly the same conversations and events, so has learned life in a certain way. There's only one of you. And that's really awesome. It's really special to be that one person who's unique, who's not a carbon copy of anybody else. So we don't need to be like other people. We just need to really figure out who are we, what do we want, and be ourselves. And that's really beautiful. If everybody in the room can just really, truly be themselves, I think it would be a nicer world. And if we are kinder to each other, and like we just heard as well about other people also going through things that we're not aware of. So if we just take the time to listen, we'll probably notice that maybe that person isn't grouchy, maybe that person isn't mean, maybe they're just going through a hard time. Another thing is, and this is really important, is that it's the little thoughts and actions, the tiny little steps that we take on a regular basis make the biggest difference in our lives. So for example, if we're going to talk about food, for example, if you're having a burger 3 times a day, you're in trouble, right? Because it's really unhealthy. But if you're having it every once in a while, your body can handle it. So it's the same thing. It's the little things, the habits that we start to build up that are positive, that are going to have the biggest effect on us. So all we need to do is start taking little actions, maybe just changing our thoughts. It's like, what do you wake up and tell yourself in the morning? Can somebody give me an example of something you wake up and say in the morning? Anybody? Yeah? You don't want to go to school. Okay. Anything else? You want to see what? Your dogs. Okay. You want to go back to sleep? Anything else? 5 more minutes? Yeah, I remember that one. Okay. Is it a good or like we want to think of what is it that excites us. Like maybe before we go to bed at night, let's think of, okay, what can be fun about tomorrow? What can I enjoy about tomorrow? What can be exciting about tomorrow? And what really would serve us better to do is to wake up and say something positive. Because the way what you say to yourself on a daily basis affects the rest of the day. So if somebody tells me right now, you need to go to Muhandisiyan, and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? It's an hour and a half, it's going to be stuck in traffic, this is terrible, I'm going to be bored to death, I don't know if I can do this, and then this car is going to go in front of me, and I don't know what's going to happen. Chances are my trip to Muhandisiyan is going to be lousy. Because I've pretty much set myself up for that. If I do the opposite and say, hey, wait a minute, okay, so Muhandisiyan, okay, it's an hour and a half, okay, it's a long trip, so what do I want to do about that? Okay, maybe I want to listen to music, maybe I want to listen to a podcast, maybe I just want to take the time to not have people around me, and maybe I can take an Uber so I can make some calls, whatever. I can turn it into something more positive and have a better trip. Now, has anything changed outside of me? If I'm going to Muhandisiyan with that first attitude or the second attitude, has anything changed in terms of the car that just came in front of me or anything that happened? Nothing. Nothing changed outside of me. The change was all coming from inside, through my thoughts. So our thoughts are so powerful that they can change our day. So I wake up and say, okay, this is going to be a good day. I wake up and say, okay, I can do it. Instead of that math test is going to be hard, I say, I can do it. That's what you were saying today? Okay, so if you decide the math test is going to be hard, the math test is going to be hard. If you decide, hey, wait a minute, I can do this. I'm going to compare as much as I can. I'm just going to do my best. And that's fine. That's good enough. Okay? Because we set ourselves up for success, or we set ourselves up for feeling good. Okay? And then one last thing, because I don't know what time it is, but it's probably close. But one last thing, in my opinion, anyway, there is no such thing as failure. It doesn't exist. Not in my book. There's no such thing. There isn't any such thing as failure. Because we do things, and then we get results, right? Who says we have to call the results of failure? To me, there's no failure, there's only feedback. Learning. I do something. It goes the way I planned, fantastic. It doesn't, okay, what am I going to learn from that? Because if I label it as failure, and if I make the mistake of labeling myself as well, because we love using labels on ourselves and on others, then I'm going to be labeling myself as a failure, which is ridiculous. All I do is when things don't go the way I planned, or I don't do very well in something, what can I learn from that? Okay? Because if you're saying it's a failure, you're kind of thinking, oh God, so why did this happen? Or what did I do wrong? Or what's wrong with me? But that's ridiculous. Instead of thinking that way, okay, so that just happened. What do I want to do about that? What do I want to do next time? What can I learn from that? And then we move on. Okay? So, that's what I wanted to share today. That is how I became happy.